is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not
The DJ needs to get it together on this Friday. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Mr. DJ.
Exactly. Get it together, man. I mean, my God, I know I don't pay you anything, but do a better job. Thanks for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show on this very happy Friday. So at 9:30, Emily Hoeven is joining us, Kim, and we're going to be talking about whether or not in 2024, San Francisco voters are going to start moving away from progressives to kind of fix the city. I'm so excited. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Emily's writing. She went from Cal Matters to the Chronicle. She's on their editorial board. You know, so obviously that in and of itself brings a perspective. But I just love her perspective. And I do believe, and this is my opinion. I believe she's fair, right? I believe that she really looks at things and is like, look, we understand why. Let's just take progressives. We understand the motivation for wanting to have change, to kind of, let's like criminal justice system, like reimagine the criminal justice system that we know is unfair, has documented throughout history how it's been heavy-handed with certain communities and not in others. On the other hand, what I really want to talk to her about and get her perspective on is when the pendulum starts swinging, right? Or when change is needed. Do people forget the transition phase, right? Where things can go to hell in a handbasket because, you know, some people haven't gotten the memo, or things aren't lined up, or the infrastructure isn't there, or there are not enough people. Does that mean that we shouldn't still strive for things like criminal justice reform, equity, things like that, right? Lead with heart, be empathetic. Because what I fear is that the reason why we wanted to have more progressives in office, because we saw so much injustice, right? That we're just going to go back to the injustice without fixing the problem. Like, we need to still fix the problem that led to so many progressives getting into office, right? And so that's what I want to kind of debate with her, because there are huge, huge issues where, for instance, she had another article, you know, people with mental illness that are violent, documented violent, just re-released out onto the street to commit crimes again, right? We need to do something about that. So she's coming up around 9:30. We'll get her about 25 minutes or so. And so I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget, this is your reminder, although I'm sure you've been reminded ad nauseum. You have to switch your clocks back an hour. It used to be on my birthday weekend. They moved it forward, I think a week or so. And I remember I had one birthday that was literally, my birthday was on Saturday, and then I got like a whole extra hour because I moved my clock back. Do you like daylight saving, or do you like standard time, Kim?
I like it when it gets lighter later.
So you like the okay, yeah. So you like more sunshine in the evening. Yeah,
that's right.
You like So basically it's gonna get lighter earlier. Like when we wake up, it'll be brighter out, right?
Yeah.
And then it's gonna get dark hella early. It's gonna be like 5 o'clock and you'll think it's bedtime. And I was trying to tell my son about that because he rides his bike to school. And I was like, you know, the sun can kind of change the perspective of, you know, how things look out there. So just be careful. We don't want anyone getting into accidents. Accidents always happen when we change the clock. Let me know in the comments, you guys. What do you like? Daylight saving time? Or do you like daylight saving time or Pacific Standard Time?
I get confused, but I feel like I just wish they would keep it one way or another. The flipping back and forth is ridiculous.
So we're going into daylight saving time right now.
Right.
But that's what we're changing into. We're ending daylight saving time and we're going into standard time. Who gives a crap? You know what? Just leave the clocks alone. We do this it's Groundhog's Day. Everybody says it. We passed something. Hold on. So I had it right here. Okay. So in 2022, the U.S. Senate unanimously passed a bill aimed at making daylight saving time permanent. So what we're in right now, making that permanent. But of course, it failed in the House because the House is just ridiculous and we couldn't get it done. So, yeah, I like the long days. I like the early, I don't mind if it's dark when I wake up because I got to wake up. Who gives a crap, right? But I want my evenings to last, have that lemonade on the porch and just see the sun go down.
Lemonade
so,
on the porch.
like I have that, but,
I saw a meme yesterday that said, don't forget to set your clocks from sunshine and happiness back to misery and despair this weekend.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't like it getting so dark. Everybody says the same thing. Although I will also say, as someone that sometimes has to wake up really, really early in the morning, going to bed when it's light out can suck. Right? Like, it's like, I want to stay out. But that's only because I want to stay up. It's not as if it's just doom and gloom and everything like that. Yeah, RNs too. Nobody wants it dark at 5 o'clock. It makes it seem so bleh. But anyways, don't forget, you got to change your clocks. And yeah, it's dark and misery. But the holidays are here, so yay. I also want to remind you that the San Francisco Alcatraz Walk is happening at Pier 27 tomorrow at 9:30. Let's see. At 9:45, they have the dancers performing. 10 o'clock, the walk. It's a mile towards Pier 39 or a 3-mile walk toward the ferry building and back. So yeah, that's something that, if you're in the area or you want to take part, that's happening tomorrow as well. Do you know what's happening today, though? Apparently, today, Oakland is going to rename a street after Tupac Shakur, which is interesting that also the guy that's accused of firing the fatal shot that killed Tupac, 27 years ago, I think I heard. Let me play you a little bit of it. And let me know when this is playing. Renaming a street. What we had Too Short had one. Somebody else had a street named after them. I mean, we do it for presidents. Why can't we do it for other people? Here we go.
This morning, a section of MacArthur Boulevard in Oakland will be renamed in honor of the late and iconic Tupac Shakur. The hip-hop artist is one of the most influential and successful rappers of all time. And this morning in Oakland, he'll be honored with a ceremony and a street renaming near Lake Merritt. He lived in that area. He was born in New York and raised on the East Coast. Both of his parents were active in the Black Panther Party, and he lived in East Oakland for a time after moving here in the late 80s. This section of MacArthur Boulevard is near Lake Merritt, where he lived. We spoke with his sister yesterday in studio on The 4, who shared her brother would be proud of the town, recognizing his contributions to culture and music.
He's just going to be skipping in heaven and excited to see everybody that's gathered for him and to see his impact that's still present in the place that he loved.
Now, today's event will be held at East Shore Park. That's at Bancroft and 73rd Avenue in East Oakland. That's going to happen at 10:30 a.m. We'll be bringing you to that event later this morning, along with some interviews of folks who plan on attending. This is one of many streets being renamed in honor of hip-hop contributors. Others include Too Short Way in Oakland and E40 Way in Vallejo.
All right.
I just love it. And
Jesus,
E40.
who is that?
So that's Alice Wirtz.
Who the hell is that? Is that reporter? I feel
Be
like
nice, Kim McAllister.
Oh my God. Tupac.
Tupac.
Congratulations, Tupac.
Oh, she got assigned it. I think she just got assigned it. Yeah.
God, I feel like she's very stiff. We get us
That's
high
so
pitched
funny.
and stiff. What the hell's going on? I was stressed out after watching the report.
I always loved it when there was always stories about 50 Cent and like anchors didn't know whether to say 50 Cent. And I'm like, it's 50 Cent. Like, just say it and just move on, right? Like, just move on.
I've screwed up my amount of names in this lifetime. But, it's just like, I can't hold that Tupac thing against her. But like, her shoulders are raised like 5 inches and she's the high pitched and Jesus, is she new? What's happening?
No, Alice Wirtz has been around. She actually works for KCBS too. So it's funny.
Sorry, my bad. I'll be quiet.
I don't know her personally. I just know her name. I've never met her, I don't think, in person. John Slade, anybody, do you remember that movie, Nothing But Trouble? That's like Tupac Shakur with Digital Underground was in that with Dan Aykroyd and Demi Moore and funny movie, old movie. But yeah, and then again tonight, I don't know, is anyone else going to Hip Hop Made the Bay? I'm so excited.
Only you. You're the only one.
I am not the only one. I am telling you guys, it is going to be so much fun. None. It's 90s hip hop. Not a 90s hip hop girl, I guess. No. And you weren't bumping like Warren G and Ice Cube and Today Was a Good Day and nothing. Like I got 5 on it. Nothing.
Do you think that's fine? Yeah, it's good. It's all good. I don't mind the music. I'm more like a Tone Loc Beastie Boys kind of rap person.
I'm down with Beastie Boys. Absolutely. That's hilarious.
Do you wonder? Is it racist to say this? Probably.
Oh, well,
yes, Ken. Then Millie, you really shouldn't. But here she goes anyway.
You have to ask.
Why did she get assigned that story? Like, where's the black reporter, or where's the reporter of color?
You can't do that. Don't make it
or
token.
Even if it's not race,
mean?
like even if where's the reporter that listens to that music that like would like
Maybe
the story
she does.
and have some passion for the story? She doesn't. No, she doesn't like that story. But you know
She's
what?
Like, you're assigning me what story?
She did the story. Somebody gave her the story. She'd probably be awesome on a different story. But that whole story, she was so uncomfortable. And she doesn't have to be she could have been you. Like, assign Nikki the story. She got it, you know?
Where else maybe there's just a lot of people off. Like that was channel 2, right? That I just played. That was channel 2. So I know that there's some people off, maybe on vacation. I know Steve Paulson was off this morning. I don't know, Alice. Maybe she does. You don't know. Maybe she just was messing up and said Tupac and instead of Tupac. Like I don't know. She could be a white lady that loves hip hop. You don't know.
She's not. But you have to, as who was it? Ricky Aubert said, Whitey McWhiteBread. Yes. And you know what? So am I. Don't assign me that story either. I do my
I am
best,
going today.
It would probably turn out like her story, right?
I'm going today to this concert, Hip Hop Made the Bay. And I'm trying to think of all the people that I'm going with. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that has brown skin in my group, but I'm going with a bunch of friends that love hip hop. No, I mean, I don't know what you consider white, but yeah,
Chris, that's hilarious, Chris. I'm like Kim. My 90s rap knowledge stops at Who Let the Dogs Out. Yeah,
no,
really, it's like Alice's hip, says Calvin. All right.
I'm just saying that I believe fully, Kim, that if you just happen to go to tonight's concert, you would know so many songs. Like you just
probably,
would.
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it was like there's just so many. You might not know every single lyric, but you'll know the songs. And so if anyone's going, just make me feel not alone, that I'm just old and everything like that. But we're gonna have a grand old time, and it's in San Jose, and I'm stoked about it. Calvin says she's a break dancer in her off time. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's do some headlines because again, Emily Hoeven's going to join us around 9:30. And I could keep Emily on for an entire show, but there's so many things that San Francisco is doing. There was a story, and I apologize if you have it in your news, but I'll tease it, where the federal government, like the feds, are coming in and launching this operation to crack down on drug dealers in San Francisco. Like they're done. They're not. I was reading this article and they're like, hold on, let me see it. My office is using targeted wiretaps, arrests, and searches throughout the Bay Area. It's The Wire, people. If you've ever seen that show, which is an excellent show, by the way. They are not messing around. You are going to face federal charges. They are really trying to crack down on what's going on, which I think is necessary. But again, we also need to make sure that we are arresting people in the proper way, right? We don't want George Floyd's to happen. We don't want these things to happen. You should be able to arrest people in a humane way and give them their due in court. That's what should happen. Like that is the flow of what should happen. It shouldn't be putting people in the back of a truck, driving erratically that it breaks somebody's spine, right? You shouldn't kneel on people's neck until they die. Those things can't happen. I don't have any problem with law enforcement arresting people. I understand that sometimes that can also be a very physical activity, but you do not kill people in order to arrest them. You are not judge, jury, and executioner. That is not okay. So that conversation is coming up with Emily, and it really does matter. You know, we always say your vote matters. There is a reason why they try so hard and spend so much money at election time. It's because it does matter. People that tell you, oh, my vote doesn't matter, fine. let other people make decisions. But when and if progressive or voters in San Francisco start moving away from progressives, what is that going to fundamentally mean for our streets? And how quickly would we see any sort of change? So that's coming up. Big thanks to Harry. It's time to pop for the party. It's Friday. Thank you, Harry, for the $5 super chat donation. The super chat is live. You can look for the $sign under the live chat box. Also, you guys, please click the thumbs up button. It should be a habit every time you log into the show. Please, please, please. We're also on Twitch. I'm going to try to remember to advertise it on Twitter or X or whatever. We're also on Twitch as well. And please sign up before the day is over. Please go to thenikkimedoroshow.com and become a monthly Patreon subscriber. We appreciate it oh so very much. It's the funds that fund the show. We are 100% crowdfunded. And so please, whatever amount you can donate, we would really appreciate. Just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. The email address, if you like PayPal better, is thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. You will see the show logo and confirmation that that is the PayPal address. So thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com is the email for PayPal. And of course, the Nikki Medoro shop is where you get your merchandise. Emily Hoeven is coming up, but first, some headlines. Oh, not that.
It's exciting though.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
On the Nikki Medoro Show, I'm Kim McAllister. The U.S. Secretary of State, watch me screw up this whole newscast after making fun of somebody else. It's karma wheel.
Yes,
You're
exactly. You're going to butcher every name.
The karma wheel is going to smack me right in the face. Here we go. The U.S. Secretary of State is calling for a pause in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. During a visit to Tel Aviv today, Antony Blinken pushed for a pause to allow hostages to be released from Hamas and humanitarian relief to get into Gaza. Blinken emphasized Israel has the right to defend itself, but called on the country to do more to minimize civilian casualties in its bombardment of Gaza. Meanwhile, fighting along the Lebanon-Israel border could escalate as well. That's according to the leader of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. In a speech in front of supporters in Beirut, the leader of the Iran-backed group said Hezbollah's primary goal is for a ceasefire in Gaza, and its secondary goal is for Hamas to come out victoriously. The Biden administration is trying to bolster economic ties with Latin America and slow down the historic flow of migrants into the U.S. President Biden hosted officials from 11 countries in the Western Hemisphere today. He announced new initiatives aimed at boosting the economies of Latin American countries so they can better absorb migrants into that region. California Representatives Katie Porter and Adam Schiff are neck and neck in their bids for the Senate seat once held by the late Dianne Feinstein. According to the latest Berkeley IGS poll of likely primary voters, Porter has 17%, Schiff 16%. About 30% of respondents said they are undecided here.
I was kind of surprised by that news this morning when I saw that Porter was above Schiff, just, obviously a percentage point, but it's going to be interesting. And of course, we're a state where the top two, no matter the party, move on.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I mean, do you think that Porter's going to go after Schiff? Because I hate that, right? I hate that infighting. It's just, I wish politics could be more like, I don't dislike this person. I don't think that this person is scandal ridden. I just think I would do a better job, right? I mean, isn't that just what you're doing? It's like the biggest job interview ever for your state or your country, whatever you're running for. Like, it's not that this person's a terrible person, and it's not that we don't even agree. I just think that my way of getting things done is better. Like that should be the way that they move forward. It shouldn't be like getting in the mud and criticizing every little thing,
I have too much faith in our candidates here. But these are colleagues. These are people that like and respect each other.
True.
I tend to feel like the way you're saying it should go down is the way it will go down.
Ooh, okay. Let's hope. I mean, I just feel like there's always going to be the devil and the angel on any candidate's shoulders. That's like, you have to get dirty. You have to get dirty. And I don't know what Schiff or Porter would go after each other about, because I feel like they've agreed, on fundamental things. I just think that I love Katie Porter's way of explaining things to Californians and to the American people. I think that I feel like anybody that sits across from her is shaking in their boots. You know what I mean? And Not saying Adam Schiff can't do it. I'm not knocking him. I just think that Katie Porter's going to kick ass.
Well, remember him at the impeachment hearings?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
what a speaker. He's incredible.
I'm not knocking him. I just like Katie Porter. She has my vote.
We've got a couple of really good choices here, but I want to say I don't think they're going to sling the mud. I don't.
I hope they don't. And I also say this. I don't think that we'll be losers no matter who gets elected, right? If it's Schiff or Porter, I think we win. I just want Katie Porter. I want to see what she can do, and I'd love for her to bring out that whiteboard and just take it to Washington.
The United Auto Workers pushing for Toyota workers to join the union after their stand-up strike against the Detroit 3 automakers resulted in 25% pay hikes. UAW President Sean Fain saying Toyota's pay raise announced this week a direct result of their deals with Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, and he says they'll have an organizing push like they have never seen. The Biden administration is investing more than $650 million in port projects aimed at improving reliability of the U.S. supply chain. The administration announced today the projects will focus on 41 ports nationwide. That includes the ports of Long Beach, Milwaukee, and Newark. The money coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law, which included $17 billion for ports and waterways. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos says he's moving from Seattle back to his childhood home of Miami. The 59-year-old billionaire posted the news on Instagram yesterday, saying he's doing it to be near his parents and his space company called Blue Origin, which is based in Cape Canaveral. Bezos calling it an emotional decision, said Seattle will always have a place in his heart.
He's the one with the phallic rocket, right? That was the Blue Origin one, was the phallic looking one.
Yes, I believe it is.
Look phallic.
Yeah.
Did. That's kind of interesting. I mean, yeah, because he's not, he's stepped away from obviously Amazon. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Thankfully, my parents live in California, so I don't have to even consider moving. My brother doesn't live anywhere close to us. He lives in Arizona. So if he wanted to come back, that'd be quite the adjustment going from Arizona to California.
Yeah. 5 years after California's deadliest wildfire, campfire victims are still rebuilding the town of Paradise with just 21% of homes rebuilt.
That's crazy.
That fire killed 85 people. It destroyed 20,000 homes and businesses. At a gathering at the state capitol yesterday, leaders talked about the recovery efforts underway. Many residents say they felt left out. Some saying settlement money has been low and slow. The Fire Victim Trust acknowledges victims won't be made whole. Some are having to pay lawyers' fees from their settlements, the federal income tax on them as well. Some homeowners' insurance, listen to this, has skyrocketed to $30,000 a year.
Wow. $35,000 a year?
$30,000 a year just for rebuilding in that area. And insurance companies are like, yeah, no.
No, they're not going to do it. That's great. I mean, again, what are people supposed to do when you're faced with something like that? That's awful. That is just
I couldn't afford to rebuild. If you
you'd have to leave.
Leave my house uninsured, and who wants that?
Well, you can't. I mean, if you have a mortgage, you have to have insurance. And unless you're buying your house straight out, even then, though, you need insurance on your house.
$30,000 a year for insurance?
That's
no
not
wonder
feasible.
Only 21% of homes have been rebuilt. Honestly.
Well, and also, what jobs are these people having in that area that's going to pay them enough to rebuild their house and then pay that insurance? Tell me, please. There's nothing that I think that, unless you're already rich, that's going to pay that bill. No.
I just don't know how they're going to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you take the money from your home settlement and you build somewhere else, or you go somewhere else.
Exactly. You take it and you run.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But where?
Yeah.
I mean, that the reason they live in that area is probably because it was affordable. You know what I mean?
Right. It turns out high school students are vaping less. Thank the
good.
ever-loving good Lord for that. A study by the CDC and the FDA found that overall tobacco smoking among high school students has hit an all-time low. E-cigarette use declined by nearly 580,000 high schoolers since last year. E-cigarettes have been the most commonly used tobacco product among high school students for a decade. The director of the FDA's Center for Tobacco Products says it's a win for public health.
Thank goodness. I mean, I talk to my kids about vaping all of the time, and they see kids in their classes or in their school vaping. And I'm like, do not even think about it. So
if you never start, you
never have to quit.
Stop.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. New York City marathon runners are pumped for Sunday's big event. The more than 26-mile route goes through all 5 boroughs with spectators cheering on the runners, and more than 50,000 people are taking part from 150 countries.
Wow. Yeah, that's
so
something
that's exciting.
I am definitely not one of those people that is going to wake my butt up early to go run 26.3 miles. No, that sounds awful to me. Awful to me.
Huge thank you to Doug for the $5
thank
super
you.
sticker. We love it. And since it came in during the newscast, I can say he really liked the news. So that was really
good. There you go.
Or maybe not. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate it very much. This report is crowdfunded, which means that we rely on you. So please check us out at thenikkimedoroshow.com, where you'll find all the good stuff, the Patreon link, the PayPal link, and all that jazz. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, let's get into, we were talking about Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, who are the Democrats going to choose between arguably 2 very good choices. But what else is going to happen in 2024 as far as who voters choose? And could there be a fundamental change in places like San Francisco? Joining us is our friend of the show, Emily Hoeven with the San Francisco Chronicle. Emily, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Of course. Great to see you guys.
Okay, so let's talk. Let's dig into this. Your headline, and I've included the link to the article in the show notes. Will dumping progressives in 2024 fix San Francisco's problems? My first question is, do you think voters will be dumping progressives?
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because the headlines are always a bit dramatic, but I think that
they have to be.
Yeah, that's the world we live in. But I think what is been really clear to me just reporting on San Francisco is that voters are clearly tired of the status quo, and I think there is kind of a sizable contingent of people that associate that with progressive governance. Obviously, we saw last year voters kicked out the progressive district attorney. They recalled 3 school board members. And in a tight supervisor race, they actually chose a moderate over a progressive. And so there are a lot of people wondering if that trend is going to continue next year and even get stronger. I think what has frustrated a lot of people about progressives is the idea that they are pursuing ideological purity, even to the point where it no longer makes any logical sense and can sometimes even undermine the very goals that they say that they have. And for me, a really clear example of this, which I think we talked about on the show before, is just Algebra 1 instruction. And the San Francisco School Board basically banned Algebra 1 instruction until 9th grade. And they did this because they said that it would kind of even the playing field and allow students of color to take advanced math at higher rates than they were currently doing. And that policy has been in place now for a while. And there was just a study that came out of Stanford, and it basically found that it made it harder for anyone to take advanced math classes. So it really had the opposite effect of what it was trying to accomplish. And so I think that those are the types of things that many people see as wrong with progressivism. The only thing that I would say in response to that is that I think that the moderate Democrats are also going to have to make their case to voters because the fact of the matter is that, the mayor, London Breed, has been in power for about 6 years. She's had a lot of authority that past mayors have not had in terms of emergency powers during the pandemic, also emergency powers in the Tenderloin due to drugs. She's appointed a ton of people to really key positions, including the district attorney, the school board, the city attorney, a supervisor. And so at a certain point, I think that there's just this way of governing and of politicking in San Francisco that is counterproductive, where you have all these groups arguing with each other and fighting each other. And it seems like no one is actually trying to actually implement solutions that are common sense and I think would work better than what's going on right now.
When I was reading your article, what kept coming into my mind is the initial reason that San Francisco has been progressive or elected, progressive officials. And it was to counter what many felt were injustices with everything within education to criminal justice and what have you. Do progressives or voters in general kind of forget the transition phase, the growing pains of making, what could be drastic changes to things like education, like, prison reform or, sentencing guidelines and things like that? Like, when you vote for something, it's not an immediate change. Like, there has to be some sort of transition. Has the window of, okay, the transition phase is over, this doesn't work, has that kind of sunsetted in your eyes?
I think that they're going to have to start showing results that are, pretty noticeable, because you can only really run on concepts and words for so long.
Right.
And I think what has, for me, when I was interviewing a lot of people in the city about this, I think the frustration that a lot of people have, even if it's not necessarily one that they're consciously articulating, is this sense that oftentimes progressive politicians are kind of blaming systems for problems, right? And those systems are flawed. I mean, whether it's the education system or the criminal justice system, there have been injustices, there have, been unideal outcomes that have come out of those. But at the same time, there has to be individual and personal accountability and responsibility. And I think, especially in criminal justice, what oftentimes rings false in the ears of many voters is when you have progressive district attorneys saying, okay, well, this person was poor, so they committed this crime, or they were the victim of this or of that, and so that's why they committed this crime. And there have been some conversations in San Francisco about whether people that are selling fentanyl are themselves being trafficked, like labor trafficked by other people. That's an argument that hasn't really had a lot of sway thus far, but I think that generally speaking, everyday people who are going around, paying their taxes, trying to be good citizens, follow the laws, there can be a sense of frustration and of being left behind when a city is so focused on a very small segment of the population and can be seen to be making excuses for that population. I think a good example is that recently there was this man in San Francisco who made a lot of headlines because he was a homeless man and he introduced himself as a registered sex offender, and he had signs for free fentanyl and meth. And I think part of it was him just trolling the city and kind of showing these are the types of things that are allowed. But there was a lot of confusion because police and various groups kept saying, well, we tried to move him and there's not much we can do. And it's kind of like, well, what does that mean? Like, how is this person able to do this?
Across from a school where kids can see it and everything like that.
Yes, when you actually have, people who are trying to open small businesses and they can't because there is such a lengthy and expensive bureaucratic permitting process. And so it just sort of seems that sometimes the city is incentivizing the wrong type of behavior. And I think that that's kind of what's at the core of this. And I think that that's what people are fed up with.
Is there a way to balance the history of creating the systems that we were just talking about, right? Hold on. We lost Emily. I don't know what happened to Emily.
Oh.
There we go. I was like, what happened to Emily? Is there a way of incentivizing, or pardon me, of understanding that there is historically a system that has led to injustices? Like, I understand the theory, let's just call it a theory, that somebody that's been brought up in poverty, that has seen, let's say the criminal justice system target people of color, removes the father from the home, that leads to, a breakdown of the family. Maybe the mom has to work 3 jobs, so she's not home to watch her kids. Like, I can understand the steps involved that lead this individual down that path. Can we understand that and yet still punish, right, that person for doing wrong and it still not be another injustice? So I don't want to swing the pendulum so far back, Emily, the other way, because there haven't been immediate results when we know that if the system's been around for decades, if not longer, then it's going to take not necessarily the same amount of time, but some time to see results.
Yeah, of course. And I think that this is the thing that a lot of people are struggling with. And I know we've talked about this before too, where there's a sense that the current system has issues. But instead of kind of looking at those issues and thinking about the best way to fix them or to put forward a new path, there's a sense that we just have to dismantle the existing system and then not replace it. And for me, I think a really good example of this is the behavioral health system. And, the state was basically like, oh, we've had all of these abuses in our mental hospitals and, patients have just been stuck in there and forgotten about and no one's taking care of them. So let's just close them down because they're bad. The problem was that people experiencing severe mental illness continued to exist and continued to need significant levels of care that were not easily provided in other types of facilities. And so what ended up happening was that those folks had ended up on the streets homeless, or they ended up in prisons and jails. There are studies that are directly showing that the amount of people that have flooded into our prison system that are mentally ill would have otherwise been state mental hospitals had those still existed. And so I think we're kind of now seeing a rhetoric start to shift among some Democrats, including the governor, Gavin Newsom, who basically is saying, look, we never fulfilled our promises to voters when we shut down mental hospitals to put forward a better alternative. And so that's why I'm putting forward this ballot measure in March to fund the creation of 10,000, mental health beds at all levels of care, from a locked psychiatric hospital to, the more relaxed settings in the community. And I think there's kind of this dawning realization that you can't just burn something down because it's not working, or it has some problems. You need to have another plan in place. And so I think all of us, I think every person in the state, generally speaking, would like to find that middle ground. The problem is that no one really seems to have put forth that solution. And so that's kind of why we do have this pendulum swing where one day people are saying, okay, it's time to take police funding and put it into the community. And then a couple of years later, you have everyone saying we need to pour billions of dollars into policing. So no one seems to have really found that sweet spot.
Yeah. And that sweet spot can be elusive. You had another article that kind of ties into what you were just talking about this gentleman by the name of, pardon me if I butcher it, Phuc Poi Lai, who had stabbed somebody, obviously had mental illness. But it was kind of this, he's back on the streets very quickly in some people's eyes. Explain that kind of story.
Yeah. So this was a case that I've been following for months, and it's a really, honestly, a tragic story on all sides of the equation, because there was this man, Phuc Poi Lai, who longtime San Francisco resident who, one morning in May just walked into a coffee shop and just stabbed one of the workers in the neck repeatedly. She was also elderly, she's basically bleeding heavily on the ground. And after the authorities arrested Phuc Poi Lai, I sort of was trying to understand, okay, how did this person end up in the situation? How was it that he just randomly walked into a bakery, stabbed this woman? And there were all these reports going around that he had just gotten out of prison for another stabbing. And so I did this look into court records, and I actually found that he was not released directly from prison. He had been released from a state mental hospital exactly 1 week before the alleged stabbing. And how this happened was a complex process, but what it boils down to is that he had been in prison for another stabbing in San Francisco in 2016, actually at the very same bakery. And he had been put in prison, and while he was there, he was found to have a very severe mental health disorder. And so when he reached the end of his prison term, instead of being put on parole into the community as you would normally, he was actually put on parole in a state mental hospital, which basically means that, you're there involuntarily, they're treating you, you are seen as a danger to others and to yourself because of your severe mental health illness. And so he was there, and then there is this process wherein if you feel that you have been wrongly paroled to the state hospital, you can actually appeal that to the state prison department. He did. They upheld it. So then he appealed it to a superior court. And this was actually in San Luis Obispo County. And so the court actually has the final say. And what ended up happening was that there was a state hospital psychologist who testified that he did not meet all of the criteria anymore to be kept in the hospital. And so a judge ordered him to be released. And under the state penal code, that has to happen within 5 business days. which for me was one of the glaring problems in the system, where you have a person who is in the highest and most structured level of mental health care and has a very long and serious history of violence and mental illness. And then in 5 days, you have to just put them back in the community, develop a really comprehensive plan, and you are literally going from 100 to 0. And what I found out from the public defender is that Lai was actually placed in a single room occupancy hotel in San Francisco directly out of the state hospital. So again, you're going from a locked institutional setting where someone is making sure you take your medication, you participate in programming, you have a very structured situation, to being placed in an SRO. And I went to go visit this SRO, and it's called the Potter Hotel. And it's actually, you know, on the inside, it's a fairly welcoming and clean and quiet place, but it's literally in the middle of an open air drug market in the South of Market neighborhood in San Francisco. And genuinely, on all directions, Nikki, I walked around it, every direction, there is that going on. There's homelessness, there's drug use, there's drug markets, there's crime. And I talked to some of the residents of the building who told me that, you know, leaving, they don't feel safe because the conditions have gotten so much worse. And all of this is to say that having this 5-day plan is not enough time to develop a comprehensive plan for someone to transition back into the community, to go from a place where you have to take your medication, you have to go to treatment, to all of a sudden there's no way to require someone to take medication, when psychologists told me that you probably would actually need lifelong medication management for a very severe illness like that. It's a recipe for disaster. And the fact that within 1 week of being released, he had returned to the scene of his prior crime and violently stabbed another woman, allegedly, and is now facing the possibility of life in prison. And not to mention that woman herself is obviously traumatized and was very severely injured.
Exactly.
Is disturbing to me on so many levels, because I think that 5-day period is so short because it's there to protect the person's liberties, to make sure that we're not holding them in this hospital against their will. Okay, that's a good intention, but then if you have done all that work and spent all that time and all that resources to help this person, you release them so fast and they deteriorate back to where they were before, and now they're potentially going to be in prison for the rest of their life. Have we actually improved any situation at all, or has it actually gotten worse? And in the interim, there were other victims. So
who can be held liable for that? I mean, what you described to me sounds like, I mean, I would want to sue, and I don't even know if you can, obviously, the state, I mean, or the court, or obviously these are not things that are possible, but it seems like somebody should be held responsible for the failure involved.
I totally understand that. And I think that there are definitely various fixes that should be made to kind of try. And this is a very specific case because, you know, this is a person who actually won his court case, actually got released from the hospital, was placed in the situation. So there are so many people that, you know, and the sense that I got too is that within the system, the people involved were trying to do the best they could. You know, the state prison department has 5 days to find housing for a person with a long history of violence and severe mental illness. What place is going to want to accept a person like that?
Right.
You know, and 5 days, you really don't have a lot of time. And so there are such strictures on every person involved. But I think that what is clear to me is that 5-day period needs to be longer.
Right.
There was actually a bill introduced about a decade ago to extend it to 30 days. It died in legislature. For unknown reasons, it was never actually brought up for a vote. But I think that it needs to be reconsidered because 5 days is not enough time. And then I was also talking to some psychiatrists who suggested that in these situations, when a judge is deciding whether or not to release a person from a state mental hospital, that they have the ability to kind of consider that person's entire history rather than just looking at that one moment in time.
Right. Which makes sense.
Right. And sort of gauge like, okay, what's the best plan for this person? And would they deteriorate again if they're released suddenly into a random place? And then another option would be that I am going to say this person should be released, but I'm going to require that they be placed in a facility that has more structure, not as intensive as a state mental hospital, but one where we can make sure that they are easing back into, day-to-day life,
Right.
and that they are still taking their medication. They are still going to treatment. And they are being supervised to some extent, because these are people that have very, very, very severe and complex needs. And there is more help is necessary than just putting them by themselves in an apartment.
I mean, it sounds like what you're describing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of the goal of kind of the care court, right? That Governor Newsom wants to set up. My concern, and I've expressed this to you and to the show many times, is it's all fine and dandy to have this lofty dream goal of how the system's going to work. Do we have the people? Do we have the facilities available to do this in any sort of meaningful timeline? And I mean in a couple of years, 5 years, 7 years, not decades, because then the problem's never going to be solved.
I know. I worry about this too, because I do think that, obviously there is this March 2024 ballot measure that would raise money for some of the infrastructure. It would, have dedicated funds for workforce development, and the behavioral health care workforce. But how quickly all of that can be ramped up, and all of the logistics. I mean, even if voters approve it, okay, so now you're raising this bond money. How are you distributing it? How are you deciding who's going to get it?
Where's it going to go? Who wants a mental health facility in their neighborhood?
Exactly. And so I definitely have my doubts and my concerns. And I think that, it is going to take a very long time if it even gets to that point. I guess one possibility is that people are going to continue seeing situations like this that are clearly so bad for everybody involved, and realize, okay, look, we have to have a status quo. We have to have something that's better than the status quo. So even if I don't want a mental hospital next to my, house, is that probably going to be better than have people who are severely mentally ill and also homeless, running around on the street? Probably that is a much better solution. So, I think there might be a bit of that change in the community, but I don't know, Nikki. We're probably going to be talking about this in 5 years and sort of evaluating
Probably
if it actually made a difference.
I mean, people don't even want, and they're not even mentally ill, just homeless shelters, right? I mean, they don't even want to build apartment units for normal people. Like it's a California mentality. It's a Bay Area mentality. I do understand both sides, but the problem is still going to exist whether the people are housed, hospitalized, or on the street. Okay, one last question, because I know I have to let you go. Do you think there's going to be a fundamental rejection of progressive candidates next year?
Ooh, it's such a tough question. I feel like I never can quite tell what's happening in the crystal ball, but I guess what I really, really feel is that voters are tired with the status quo. Yeah. So if they associate that with progressives, then I think, yes, they will reject that. If they associate that with moderates, then I think they will reject that. But I do think that we are seeing statewide, we are seeing a shift rightward. And again, this isn't a very left context, right? So it's not right. It's just a little less left. And, we have the governor, we have the attorney general saying, let's prosecute fentanyl sales as homicides if people die. Mm-hmm. That's something that were not saying even a couple of months ago. And so I think that as we approach the election, these problems are going to become more and more a flashpoint in our debates. And I think people do have a sense, politicians are sensing that whatever they were saying the past couple of years, whether or not they've given it enough time, voters are not really down with it. And so I do think we are going to see kind of a little bit of a shift back to a little bit tougher on crime, a little bit tougher on, getting people into the care and treatment that they need. The governor signed a bill to make it easier to put people into involuntary behavioral health treatment. That's something that was not even politically feasible even a year ago when the bill didn't pass the legislature. So we are seeing signs that people are like, look, we need to have solutions. And I don't care if it's a little bit more politically contentious, we've got to do something. So that's what I think voters are going to say.
All right. Well, Emily Hoeven, San Francisco Chronicle, check out her articles. I've linked them in the show notes. I love your writing. I always appreciate your perspective. Until next time, friend, we'll talk to you.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, Kim. If we see
back and
it's
forth.
okay.
Woohoo.
If we see a fundamental shift, I think that Emily makes a great point, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a total lib, but I'm not an idiot, right?
Right.
And I'm not trying to equate the two. I'm just saying you can't take away human nature, right? You can't. On one hand, I'm just going to use an analogy. Do I want safety nets like WIC, or some people call welfare, even though I know some people will abuse the system? Yes, I do. I am not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, well, that person's abusing the system, so all of these people don't get help. Of course not. But at the same time, I want to handle the person that's abusing the system. I think there should be safeguards. I think that even though it seems really unfair to have somebody in a mental hospital for the rest of their life, because who wants to be in a mental hospital for the rest of their life? If there is no quote unquote cure for what's ailing them, then they need round the clock care and attention, then that's what they need. And I don't make the rules. I didn't create the body or the mind. So that needs to happen. We need to stop always leaning into the most liberal ideas just because the most extreme right ideas are horrific to us. There needs to be a happy medium. And until we realize that, we're going to constantly see these problems and never agree on a solution.
It's probably not liberal to say, as Emily said, we should prosecute fentanyl sales where people have died as murders. That's probably not very liberal.
No, it's not. But at the same time, I don't know many people that would disagree with that. If you know that you're selling somebody fentanyl and you know that they could die, although you could say that with all kinds of drugs, heroin, cocaine, like whatever. Although I was listening to, I don't know if it was a news report or something, they're saying fentanyl's in everything. If it's a powder or you can inject it, it probably has fentanyl in it. So... And what's also tragic, just on a side note, is if you try to get clean and then slip up because fentanyl is so strong, you likely do overdose because your body's not able to handle it. It's awful. It's awful.
I just don't feel like we make headway or we ever attack that problem if we don't go at it, with the claws out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
exactly.
So is that me becoming more conservative in my old age, or just looking at a common sense solution?
There you go. I don't see it conservative. And I love how Emily is like, we're not moving right. Like we're still left. We're still
it's
compassionate.
Still California. Right.
And I will say this, and I know many conservatives in my life, friends, family, whatever. And I hate that I default, and I do this myself. I'm being completely honest, that I'm always like, I used to make this analogy to my dad that liberals or Democrats were like the white hats and conservatives and Republicans were the black hats. If you understand, like you guys are just conservatives are too harsh, too mean, not empathetic enough, right? Unless it's to themselves, right? Like if they're conservative, they're forgiving of themselves, but other people that don't look like them, live like them, of the same socioeconomic status as them, they're be damned, right?
Let's take Mike Johnson into account here, where he was trying to legislate that you couldn't have gay sex anymore.
Right.
He doesn't like it, so therefore no one should do it.
Nobody should like it. And it's a wrong way to look at your life. I just feel like, whether you call liberals heathens, right, sinners, right, if you're of the religious right or whatever, I would rather be a good human to most humans, like all humans, than to consider myself a good fill in the blank religion, right? Like I don't need to follow religious rules that make me hate my neighbor. I don't subscribe to that belief. I don't subscribe to that political belief. So you can call me whatever name in the book you want to, but as long as people in my community know that I accept them for who they are and I can give a rat's ass who they're sleeping with, then, as long as it's not a child, like I am totally fine. Whatever freaky deaky thing you want to do in the bedroom, like I don't care.
As long as it's not hurting someone else.
As long as it's not hurting, like don't hurt people and don't take away people's rights that you have. If you have a right, that person should have the same right. How about that? And I just feel like if we could take politics out of it, which we can never do nowadays, we would agree on a lot more things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2024. Something needs to be done though. The Bay, we lead with our heart, Kim, but sometimes we leave common sense kind of outside and it's like, okay, it may seem a little harsh, but that's what needs to be done. Okay. We're going to do some headlines. Are you ready with headlines? Because I have something next. Okay. I do have something to eat. I did not make deviled eggs. I know it's Friday. I do a Friday food segment. And so I was like, I didn't want to make it. I just wasn't in the mood to do it. Like it's kind of time consuming. And I was starving yesterday. You know what I've been eating, Kim? just to lighten things up, I've been eating my weight in zucchini. I don't know what it is.
Really?
And it's not even that like.
Do you grow it in the back garden?
No,
or is it
do
from
I
the
grow
store?
anything? No. My mother is the gardener. No, I'll get zucchini and summer squash, which obviously is going out. Like they're really tiny. They're not even like really in season that much anymore. Green zucchini is, but I've just been like cutting it up into chunks, throwing it in my air fryer, and then dipping it in a mixture of mayonnaise, sriracha, and my Slap Your Mama seasoning. I literally ate 2 whole zucchini to my head yesterday, and that was my lunch. I was starving.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not eating that today, though. I am eating something way more delicious, which I will do after your headlines. But this is Friday food. I was going to make like some sort of yummy coffee thing, and then I just ran out of time. So I opened my fridge today. And my mother had made me something really special that she'd never made before. And I have not tried it. I've not tried it at all, so we'll try it on air. But it was really delicious. My sister-in-law, who lives in Kentucky, makes them as well. So we'll talk about that during Friday Food, which is coming up right after Kim's news. But first, click the thumbs up button, show your support of the show, and we'll do Friday Food. And Tim Sika's coming up. Second half of the show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, you know, we're going to start this time around with President Biden, whose top diplomat is pushing for humanitarian pauses now in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. During a visit to Tel Aviv today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken called for a pause to allow hostages to be released from Hamas and humanitarian relief to get into Gaza. Blinken emphasized Israel has the right to defend herself, but called on the country to do more to minimize civilian casualties. Blinken's trip comes as Israeli forces have now encircled Gaza City. The son of former President Donald Trump continues testimony today at his father's civil fraud trial in New York. Eric Trump will continue to take questions on the stand regarding financial documents of the Trump Organization. Yesterday, the judge threatened to expand a gag order already in place for Trump to now Trump's legal team as well. This after Trump's lead defense attorney made a comment about the judge's clerk while raising an objection. Trump has been fined for verbally attacking the clerk. The state attorney general is accusing Trump of inflating his net worth to get better loans. Now, during this whole incident, did you read this? The judge got table slapping mad. He beat on the table and said, "You will not talk about my clerk this way." Wowzers.
Trump should be facing way more consequences than fines. Like his ass should be in jail. Like, please.
This is the fraud trial, and the fines they're painful. Like he will no longer have control of the Trump Organization, and all this
can't do business and everything. Yeah.
Trump towers and Trump thises and Trump that's become no longer Trumping anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully it has some teeth into it. And I've read people close to him saying, you know, the criminal charges, maybe he's scared of jail. We don't know. But
he should be.
He
should be scared of jail.
Where you really hit him hard is in the wallet. So this is the big thing to him.
No, I think if you threw his wait a minute, you're telling me that Trump would rather go to jail than pay a fine?
Or go to jail than have half of his net worth stripped by the court.
Yeah, I just don't think, I mean, obviously, I don't think that he wants either, but I would personally love the fine. Yes, the fine. Because I feel like he could just find money. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like he could find money. But I want to see his ass in a yellow jumpsuit. Is that too much to ask?
How long? What do you think is, let's
whatever I would face for doing what he did. Whatever I would get. So that's what I want.
No,
whatever I would get, I want him to get.
We have seen the people get a slap on the wrist and let out. So they get like 12 months in jail and some odd $1,000 fine, and they get probation and they're out. No. He tried to steal, allegedly, a presidential election from the American people.
That's true. Well, yeah,
and
for
had
that.
all his different irons in the fire on ways that he could do it. With the fake electors and the Mike Pence trying to convince him not to certify the election, and the rounding up of whipping up of support outside to the violent insurrection. No. Now, for life, the rest of his life, whatever measly pittance of it is left, gone.
Well, Randy doesn't think that we're going to get our Christmas wish, Kim. You can wish all you want, but the reality is, even if convicted, Trump will never be sent to jail. It's not going to happen.
Come on, Randy. Don't break a girl's heart. What's wrong with
right?
you?
Exactly.
Lock him up, says Gordon. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Moving past it, you just mentioned this case when you had this great interview with Emily Hoeven. This man who was convicted of second-degree murder in California's first fentanyl-related homicide case, being sentenced to prison this morning in the landmark trial. Vicente Romero admitted to giving 26-year-old Kelsey King a pill in 2020 that he knew was laced with fentanyl. King later overdosed and died. Romero facing up to 15 years in prison. 25 active fentanyl-related homicide cases are waiting to go to trial in Riverside County alone. So more across the state.
Exactly. I mean, and you know what? I support it. You know, if you're look, we're not going after pot dealers unless you're lacing your pot with fentanyl, right? I mean, it's just, if you have something that you know could kill somebody, you should face consequences for that.
Do you think that will make drug dealers more careful about what they sell? No. Do you think it will make people not want to sell drugs? No.
But I do think that, you know what? It'll stop that one. It'll stop that drug dealer.
Yeah.
It'll stop that one, right? I mean, it's like, do any punishment stop all crime? No, of course not. But if you get caught and somebody dies, then there's a consequence, and I support that.
The Earth will reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold by the end of the decade. That, according to research published in the Oxford Open Climate Change Journal. The Paris Climate Agreement said that threshold, which the study suggests the Earth will hit by 2030, the lead author wrote that climatologists overestimated the planet's ability to withstand increased carbon dioxide levels, so it's happening earlier.
Oh, fabulous. I mean, so then we don't have to worry about anything. I mean, just some stupid Republican, I think it was a congressperson, got up and was like, global warming doesn't exist because it was like 29 degrees on Halloween. I'm like, you're a moron. Like, this is the problem. We have people in Washington who don't understand, and yet they legislate on things they don't understand.
Millions of sterile fruit flies have been released into the Los Angeles area in an attempt to end an infestation destroying local citrus crops. The Mediterranean fruit fly has been called the most dangerous pest in the world because of how much damage it can do. The hope is the sterile flies will mate with the fertile flies and they'll all die out without bearing any little baby flies. Fruit, meantime, is being removed from farms and grocers in the California Department of Food and Agriculture has imposed a quarantine on moving fruit out of the Los Angeles area right now. It's a 30-day quarantine. It applies to farms, stores, distributors, and residents with fruit trees on their properties as well. So don't try to take those things and push them on anybody else. You know, that's it.
Yeah, that's in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Los Angeles area.
Exactly. Okay.
A Los Angeles area city employee has been evacuated from Gaza after being trapped there for weeks. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass's office says Shohal Bayri from Simi Valley is now safe in Egypt with several hundred other Americans who've been rescued from that area. No word yet when Bayri will fly back to the United States. We knew yesterday that there were as many as 400 Americans who've been granted access through that Rafah crossing in Egypt. So yeah, this is one of those. Here's a November election preview for you.
Okay.
Voters in key parts of the country heading to the polls Tuesday. Kentucky's Democratic Governor Andy Beshear running to win a second term against Republican challenger Daniel Cameron, who currently serves as the state's attorney general and who won the endorsement of Donald Trump. In Mississippi, Republican Governor Tate Reeves seeking re-election. He's facing challenger Brendan Presley, who is trying to be the state's first Democratic governor in 2 decades. Abortion rights on the ballot in Ohio. Voters to decide whether to enshrine the right to abortion access in the state Constitution. Meanwhile, control of Virginia's legislature is up for grabs. All 140 seats in Virginia's General Assembly are on the ballot. So that is Tuesday, and we'll get to see if you're talking to Emily about is California going to start swinging conservative, but these elections that happen right before a presidential election can kind of tell the story as well about
yeah,
where
it can
we're
be
heading.
a barometer a bit,
Mhm.
and of course when you're talking about red states like Kentucky, what I always find hilarious is when you have red states, maybe like Arizona saw it, or like, oh, it's just all these liberals moving in, or it could also be that the people that have lived there look at your conservative ways and what you voted and Roe v. Wade and other things. They're like, I don't like that. I mean, it's not just that liberals are moving into states. It's perhaps that your party has jumped the shark and it's like, wait a minute, these people are out of their mind. I'm not going to support somebody that believes in the election lie. I'm not going to vote for somebody that does X, Y, that doesn't believe in a woman's right to choose. I'm not going to do that. And so that's why. I mean, yes, of course, the migration of people across the country has always influenced politics. But for people to blame California for every time a state moves from red to purple or blue or whatever, it also is your politics that is not resonating with everybody like it used to.
Lastly, HBO boss Casey Bloys says he is not the type of person who would build an army of Twitter trolls to harass critics who write negative reviews of the new series on the cable network, but he admits that he used to be that person.
That's funny.
Bloys apologized today or yesterday during his presentation of HBO's slate of upcoming projects for organizing a secret army of Twitter trolls from June of 2020 through April of 2022 for 2 years.
It's not hard or expensive to do it. That's what the whole election thing was too. You can find people and fake accounts to do all sorts of things.
Yeah, well, the head of the network with faker bakers and Twitter trolls, and
I mean, why not?
Man.
Why not? And it's not right. I'm not supporting it, but of course, it doesn't surprise me at all. People do it on Yelp. People do it for all sorts. You want to start drumming up attention in a positive way, and you're like, well, everyone's on social media. I could pay to have these bots or people in other countries or whatever system that you want to pay for, and it's not expensive. In the grand scheme of things. And when you're talking about a network, you think he gives a crap about how much money it is? No, of course not. Absolutely not. Yeah, it does not surprise me at all. And I'm not saying it's genius. But what I am saying is, yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Well, we do not have a secret or bot army of Twitter trolls here on the Nikki
not.
Medoro Show.
No, we do not.
Which means we rely on good old-fashioned honest truth. So if you like the show and you like hanging out with us, you can support the show by going to thenikkimedoroshow.com. You'll find all the links there to all the ways that you might want to participate in helping the show, the Patreon, the PayPal, the whatnot. The Medoro shop link is there as well. We have links to the podcast there too.
Yep.
The NikkiMedoroShow.com is a one-stop shop for all the good stuff Nikki Medoro-ish. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
There we go. All right. It's a little late. Usually we do this in the first hour, but we had Emily Hoeven, who we adore.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do our Friday food segment. There's all kinds of there's all kinds of food news, but let me first do what I'm gonna eat.
Here?
I have. Have you ever had? Let me see if I could do it because it's kind of sticky. Have you ever had a pumpkin roll?
Oh, it's a goner. No.
Okay, it's my own computer. I'll eat it. It's a pumpkin roll.
Okay.
Have you ever had a pumpkin roll?
No, I have not. What's the white stuff?
It's like a cream cheese type of filling. My sister-in-law, shout out to Kristen, Sarah, as I know her. She turned me on to these years ago. Sarah would make it Thanksgiving. It's pumpkin, right? And so how you make it, I've made it with my sister-in-law. I've never made it on my own. So you take like this kind of pumpkin batter, right? And you lay it on a sheet, like a cookie sheet, so it's thin. And then you bake it a little bit, and then you put this cream cheese filling. And then there's a way of like having saran wrap where you roll it. Okay. And the trick is to use like not unflavored floss or some sort of thin string, and that's how you cut it so you don't smash it when you cut it. And so anyways, I was at my mom's house for Halloween, and she's like, I made a pumpkin roll, and she never made a pumpkin roll before. I have not yet tasted the pumpkin roll. This is my first bite, so hopefully my mother's watching. She said, and I love my mom, she's like, it's not too sweet because I don't like making things too sweet. I'm like, okay, let's see. Oh, it's very pumpkin-y.
Good. Yeah, she did well.
Good job, Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really good. Anyone else make pumpkin roll? So there it is. Like,
she's delighted right now. It looks like more filling than pumpkin. No?
Hold on, here. Well, I mean, isn't that just the way to do it, right?
Well, yeah, always.
More filling. So there's the pumpkin part.
Okay.
It is really pumpkin-y, though. This is really good.
I wonder if she used pumpkin out of a can, or
Probably.
if she chopped up a pumpkin and boiled it.
Oh God, no. She used
No?
a can. No.
Okay.
No. I love my mother. I highly doubt. I think if she would have done that, that would have been the lead. Believe me.
It's real pumpkin. Yeah.
Thank you, Beth, for the $20 donation. Great week, full of stories. Happy Friday. Thank you, Beth,
Thanks,
for
Beth.
donating to our super
Awesome.
chat. Yeah. No, pumpkin roll. Yeah, it is really, this is really good. I wish
Pumpkin
my coffee
roll.
was hot.
Mm.
And it's not.
I'm feeling a little jealous right now.
Mm-hmm. It is really, really yummy. So yeah. Yeah, Doug's right. I can't think of anything cream cheese doesn't taste good. I'm telling you, I have a dessert that I'm going to make. I teased it before. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but that's on my list, and it's cream cheesy like, and it's really, really good. So, Spencer says I only like pumpkin pie. My daughter loves pumpkin pie. I would much rather have a pumpkin roll than pumpkin pie. I'm not a huge pie person. I like cheesecake. Now, pumpkin cheesecake. Now you got me. But pumpkin pie, I just put a bunch of whipped cream on it and I'm good. Okay, so that's that. Now, other food stories. Who is in the mood to win? Everybody is going to raise their hand right now.
Yeah, always.
Who's in the mood to win?
When you put it like that. Yes, please.
$100,000.
Oh, yeah. Are we giving that away?
I wish I was.
No, we're not. No,
we are not. But I will say this. You win $100,000 if you are someone that likes to do this. Decorate your house early for Christmas. So Oreo is giving away $100,000. They acknowledge that most people do not begin decorating for the winter holidays until after Thanksgiving. So Oreo's like, why wait? And so they're encouraging festive fans to kick off the season in style, as they say, and bring it to life the Christmas season, the holiday season, a little early. Oreo's HOA, which the company claims is the most playful HOA on the block, will split $100,000 in prizes between 100 festive fans who decorate their homes before Thanksgiving. Okay, how early do you start decorating for Christmas? Not Thanksgiving, but Christmas.
Day after Thanksgiving.
So that's when it goes out. So do you go get your
has
tree?
To be over in order for usually the day after Thanksgiving or the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
because I want the most bang for my buck for my effort, right? I don't want to leave it to 2 weeks before Christmas. I want to have it up for about a month at least.
Yeah, because it's an expense, and trees are getting expensive. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But
so
David sometimes will put lights on the house even before Thanksgiving, Christmas lights up, and that's kind of embarrassing. I always feel like, we're the first family to get that done. If you've never taken your decorations down from last year, does that count? Yes, that counts. You're good.
Submit. You might win. You never know.
But can you go back to that picture? Because I don't think that Oreo is going to give the money to that house. I think when they say decorate for Christmas, are they looking for the overdone,
wackiest?
the brightest, Chevy Chase looking home on the block with all the creatures in the front yard? The people who always, go crazy.
Don't care how much their PG&E bill is.
They're not looking for a simple wreath and a deer on the lawn. They're looking for whoa, you really like Christmas, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I'm looking at it. Winners will be chosen randomly, they say. So to be considered for I guess it's $1,000 because they're choosing 100. From the Oreo HOA, you have to follow Oreo on Instagram and Twitter X between November 1st and November 17th. And then you have to share a photo of your decked out house with the hashtag holiday Oreo allowance and Oreo sweepstakes. So, and then if you submit it, then you get to be put in the drawing, I guess, where you're chosen randomly. So there you go. So it doesn't have to be all out. It could be whatever. So you could just take a little tiny picture of, I guess, your Santa in your door. I don't know. Yeah. I think they want an entire picture, but yeah, you don't have to go too bad. So we just moved. So we've never decorated this house. I did show you guys my floating candles for Halloween.
Those are cool.
I'm gonna keep those up and I'm gonna decorate
Really?
them. I saw some ideas online where I could put, like tinsel or like bulbs and kind of turn it into kind of a Christmassy type of thing. So we might try that. It's to get more bang for my buck for my freaking candles. I really like it. I really like them. They're pretty, and I don't want to
put like holly berries or something on the
or
around
something.
the
Yeah, like
candles?
there's a bunch of different ideas on how to like Christmas it up. So I might do that. And then I got to take down. We have some wall decor that I'm going to Christmas up and stuff like that. But I still have to take down my Halloween stuff. I mean, I got to change out I have a spooky wreath that I do and all those sorts of things. So Amy says we host Thanksgiving, so we started doing some before Thanksgiving so our guests can enjoy it. Okay. I have what do I do for Thanksgiving? I do flowers. I have a tablecloth. I have, placemats, things like that. And then we have our little gnomes that are kind of Thanksgiving-y. But yeah, that's about it. I like to go all out, but we've never decorated this house, so I don't know what we're gonna do, and I don't know what we can do. We'll have to ask them because before we were renting from my dad. Now I don't know what renters are allowed to do as far as hanging things on the house. I'll have to ask our amazing landlords if we're allowed to decorate. Because you don't want to do anything that upsets the landlord. So it might be more inside, but
sometimes when you put lights on the house, you have to put hooks on the house.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't actually looked. I don't know if they already have hooks there. But then I also don't want to be the dark house. You know what I mean? So we'll have to find out any renters in my comments. What do you guys do?
Fence in front or
no? We don't have any sort of. We have bushes though, so I guess we could put lights on the bushes.
Yeah,
it's kind of lame. Maybe I could find like some command hooks that I could take on and off. That could be an idea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know. But yeah, so if you want to decorate early, you could do that. How much would you pay? You're not a beer drinker, are you, Kim?
No, wine.
You're a wine drinker. Well, any beer drinkers out there, one of the world's strongest beers is making a comeback. It's called Utopias. It's from Sam Adams. The alcohol by volume. Guess the percentage. How much percentage do you think the world's strongest beer has? It is so strong. This beer is banned in 15 states.
Is it 28% by volume?
It is 28%.
Is it really? I guessed on the nose.
I thought you read it already. No,
I wouldn't have. If I would have said, I would already have read the story. That was a random guess.
It is 28% alcohol by volume. Typically, IPAs have an alcohol by volume of 7%. So this is, 4 times as much as that. It's called Utopia. It's banned in 15 states, but it's legal in California. Experts say it tastes more like a cognac or a port rather than a beer. I am not much of a cognac or port drinker. This does not sound good to me. It's also, Utopias are supposed to be consumed in small servings at room temperature. Okay, so you guessed really well the alcohol by volume.
It doesn't sound pleasant.
It doesn't, but how much do you think a bottle costs of this very strong 28% alcohol by volume beer? How much do you think you have to pay?
$32.
Way more. Go
really?
Up. Yes.
Oh, I don't know. $53.
You would have to pay $240
for one bottle of beer.
For one bottle of beer.
Ridiculous.
I know. I don't. No. I mean, I guess if you all wanted to go in on it, and if you think of it like a really expensive bottle of wine or champagne, because you're only having a small serving. If you think of it that way, maybe. But then you'd have to drink it in one sitting, so you'd have to have it with other people. Nick says, I like robust beers, but probably would not like that one. Yeah. I'm not that big of a beer drinker anymore. And even when I did drink beer, I drank crap, watery beer. So I'm not one that likes it really, really heavy. And I sure as hell am not paying $240 for a beer.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it's but if you're a connoisseur,
there are beer manufacturers that are upper scale that you go into the beer, they have beer tastings right?
Yes.
And the bottle does look more like a champagne bottle than a beer bottle.
Right.
But it's still beer. And
It's
I
still
get
just
that
beer, yeah.
it has notes and flavors and wine, whatever. It's just not, you can't make beer wine.
No. You
No.
can't, and I'm sorry, unless you're one of those people that makes buku bucks, right? So it doesn't matter to you, or you just really need to taste the latest, greatest. Oh my God, then no, I have zero desire to spend that much money on a beer. Okay, another food story has to do with something we probably mentioned in the news, but just to remind you that Thanksgiving prices
are
up
again,
and down, up and down. So turkey prices are down. But I guess the sides, Kim, are up. So, let's see. They're blaming the cost of traveling, things like that. Now, canned cranberries will cost 60% more. Are you a cranberry eater?
No, not necessarily.
Neither am I. Canned green beans are up almost 10%.
You got to have them, but I don't really like them.
I like the green bean casserole. I'll admit that. I do like that. Canned pumpkin up 30%. So for that pumpkin roll that I just ate. That's going to cost you more. And then russet potatoes are up 14%. That's an all-time high. But turkey prices are down. So you'll pay less for the turkey, but more for the sides. What is your favorite Thanksgiving side?
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that.
My mom makes, but she usually makes it on Christmas. She makes this vegetable dish where it's got carrots and I think she puts green beans in there.
Right.
And corn and other vegetables. And then it has this Ritz cracker crumble on top.
Ooh.
Oh, broccoli's in there. It is so good. I'm telling you.
Oh, okay. There you go. I mean, my number one side is the brown and serve rolls. I can eat my weight in brown and serve rolls on Thanksgiving Day.
Really?
I do like turkey, but only if it's dark meat. I do not like white meat.
The kind that come out of the can, the crescent rolls out of the can?
I mean, I like crescent rolls, but no, the ones that come in like the plastic, like you pull them apart. They're called brown and serve rolls.
Okay, I don't think we've had those.
Are you in? Oh, they're so good. They're so they're like
Look, is that the brand name?
Yeah, if you go and you'll see it, it's like they're all you have to pull them apart, but they're already in the like roll shape.
Okay.
And yeah, they're called brown and serve, right?
Right.
I don't think I'm insane. I don't think I'm remembering it wrong. No, they're called brown and serve rolls, and they're really good. But you have to make sure you do not overcook them, or they will become hard as a rock. There is a sweet spot. And yeah, they're really, really yummy. Brown and serve, the flaky ones, they're really good. I love a good crescent roll. Don't get me wrong. But we'll have crescent rolls all year long. I only eat brown and serve rolls during the holidays. Yeah, on the holidays.
What do you think about the what is it called? Not Anastasia, Fantasia. It's the Jello with the coconut and the mandarin oranges.
Oh, okay.
Ambrosia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ambrosia.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Was on like The Voice or something. No, I don't eat it. I will be honest. I don't think I've ever eaten it because it doesn't look appetizing to me.
Yeah.
At all. I'm not much of also a Jello mold type of person. Like,
right.
I don't want fruit in my Jello. You can put whipped cream in my Jello, but that's about it. Like nothing else. Yeah. Doug says, I'll go for mashed potatoes and brown and serve rolls. I'll make them. Yeah. As far as dessert, I love the pumpkin roll. I'll have a piece of pumpkin pie, but that's it.
This is really getting me in the mood for Thanksgiving.
I know, right?
Are you a family that sits down and passes the food around the table, or are you a buffet family?
Ooh, good question. So, well, this is the first year we're going to do it in our house. So normally my mom, I think we bring like the turkey to the table with a bunch of sides, depending on how many people we have. So if we have the long table because my brother's in town and my in-laws and everybody, then we set up the long table for everyone to eat at, and all the food is on our dining room table, and everybody serves themselves there because it's just not feasible, right?
Right.
But if it's just us, like if for years that it's just my family and my parents, we'll just have it on the table because we can fit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the buffet style though. I really do. I like everyone make their thing. But there's always this point. I love you parents. They're going to laugh. There's always this point where it's time to say grace. But not everybody has sat down yet. And so then somebody gets aggravated that somebody has not sat down yet because we're trying to say grace. And I always laugh to myself. I go, here we go. Sit down. We're trying to say grace. I'm like, everybody could just, like Take their time. I'm always like the mediator. It's okay. But no, everyone just starts getting aggravated. I think the holidays are hilarious because especially when you're just with your family and it's not mixed company, everyone's just still their snarky. Or maybe it's just my house.
So
Snarky selves.
we don't say grace.
Okay.
We're not a very religious family, but
Right.
my mother
Well, you can say
was
thanks,
a
right?
teacher,
Uh-huh.
and so she always orchestrates something, and usually it's going around the table.
Yeah.
Each person has to say what they're thankful for.
Right. And that's usually, I mean, we usually
Yeah.
say grace, then we usually do something like that. But yeah, it's just oh, how funny. Ricky, Chinese takeout, native family tradition. I thought that Christmas Eve also is, am I wrong that Christmas Eve is
you're
also
right.
a Chinese food
Yeah.
tradition, right?
Right, for some people that don't
Yeah.
celebrate. Mm-hmm.
And also forgive me if I'm wrong, but don't Jewish people eat a lot of Chinese food during
On Christmas. Yeah.
on Christmas because they
Yeah.
don't celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Hanukkah.
Right. And all the other restaurants are often closed, but the Chinese restaurants always open.
are open. Exactly.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I will join you. Chinese food favorites. So I love Chinese food. I love Asian food. Like I am down for that one. I like Thanksgiving. I like my kids are all, I think I mentioned this before, all focused on Christmas already. I'm like, we
Right.
need to be thankful
Yeah,
before we
do.
start all that nonsense that is in, we're staying home for Christmas Eve and then going to see my brother. But I think it's just being with family and doing things. I really need to find some gifts that are experiences. I'm telling you. John says we had a ban talking politics during Thanksgiving dinner. If anyone starts talking politics, I'm leaving the table. Like, no, we're not doing it.
Are you the only Libby Lib in your house?
Am I the only Libby? Yeah, probably.
Wow.
I
Even
mean,
your
we're
brother?
not counting the kids. My brother stays out of politics, but he's also a business owner, or not a business. He works for a nonprofit, but he also has his own side business. I feel like not my dad is a whole right winger Trumper. Okay, so he's in his own freaking category. There's nobody like my dad. I would say that my mom's become more conservative. I think she became more conservative after we left the house. I remember growing up and her being way more liberal.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, I think, is just like against taxes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's necessarily, but he works for a nonprofit. He works with children. So I'm not saying he's a total conservative. Not that
Right.
conservatives can't be into those things.
He has a heart.
He has a
Right.
heart. He's the
Mhm.
white hat, right? And then I don't know. I mean, I'm raising my kids to be total Libby Libs. I totally am. I mean, if there's any sort of indoctrination happening, you could totally be me. I'm like, we care about people.
I'm raising my children to be kind and thoughtful.
Yes, exactly.
And
exactly.
So you could extrapolate what that means.
Well, no, but I'm also like, liberal ways, like Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yeah.
Housing the homeless, those sorts of things. I'm totally for. Yes.
So we have a very political family.
Okay.
So my uncle is has been just recently retired, but still contributes to the Marin IJ as an editor. He was the opinion editor for many years.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So he's always talking politics, and he was on the editorial board. So he's always the minute he sees me, we're like, politics. My sister is very political and an activist in many regards. And my mom is very political, and so am I. Luckily, we all kind of lean the same way.
Same way. If you didn't,
Sometimes
though,
my uncle has a little more conservative take, and he'll just kind of shake his head like how far we go. But if there was a Trumper at the table, it would be a different story. Then I think you got to ban the politics because that just gets ugly. Yeah.
No, and I have no, as you guys know, I mean, I can get very passionate. Like there is no way I can talk politics at the table with my dad. Like the minute it starts, it goes from 0 to 1,000. Like it's just, and I try my hardest, Kim. I really do. I really try to keep the emotions and it lasts all of 30 seconds. And it's because my father and I are very similar in personality and passion and in so many other ways. Politically, though, we could not be more opposite. It blows my mind. But again, it's the age we live in where he lives in the Fox News, Newsmax,
right,
in my opinion, a wackadoo world politically. And in his opinion, I live in the world with a liberal head up my ass, basically. So
last year I was at my dad's for Thanksgiving in Oregon, and he said something to me about critical race theory in the classroom.
Right.
All right. And he had it all wrong. Like he didn't know what it meant.
Of course they do.
Because he'd been listening to too much Fox News.
Right, exactly.
And I said, that's not what that means. He's
Right.
like, they're making your kids feel ashamed. And I'm like, no, they're not actually teaching them the truth.
Right.
If that makes you feel bad,
then
that's
on
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's a you
right.
problem.
I mean, you want to be lied to so Nancy can feel better? No.
Exactly.
No, we have the truth is what we have in school. Anyway,
right. Truth
so
hurts.
he finally said, he goes, you know what? I just don't want to talk about it. And I was like, okay. That's fine.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it either at all.
I especially don't want to talk about it if you're getting it wrong and refusing to believe the truth.
And I don't want to argue at the holidays, but Flo, as
No.
broadcast journalist and news talk show host, will family and friends try to goad you into your opinions on current events when you just want to have a chill holiday? Yes. And not necessarily family, because obviously they see me, they talk to me all the time, but randos that just happen to see me on that holiday, right? Like, oh, the neighbor across the street, or not literally, but you know, some friend that I haven't seen in forever, and then all of a sudden and it's usually men. Just to be a little sexist about it, but like it's usually men who I think, you know, if I was going to be snarky about it or kind of trying to test me, right? Like they probably know my opinions since I do a freaking daily show, and they just want to like debate me. It gets them off for some weird reason. But again, I've done this, so it's like I'm not working, and sometimes I'll say that I'm like I'm off the clock. I go, I'm not working tonight. I don't. I'm like, you know, who was it? It was somebody, I think it was a Keanu Reeves meme or something. They're like, you know what? If you want to say 1 + 1 is 5, have fun with that. Okay. Like, I'm not going to do this today. Right. Like you want to do that nonsense, because I think that we've also realized after so many years of being so politically divisive that there is not going to be an end of this conversation where the other person is going to go, you've completely changed my mind. I am totally going to look at critical race theory a different way. That's not going to happen. So why don't we jump to the point where like we won't agree, right?
I thought that we could have truth. I thought he clearly just doesn't understand what it means. Let me just tell you the real meaning of what you're saying here.
Yeah.
That fly well. No.
And so I don't waste my time. Holidays are for drinking and eating food and no politics. How about that? But you know what we can talk about, Kim? You know what we can talk about? We can always talk about movies, because watching movies is my favorite thing to do, especially during the holidays. Hello, Tim Sika.
Hello, Nikki. Hello, Kim.
Hi.
Hi.
Tim has quite the list. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of these movies before the end of the show. But we're going to try.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to try.
Yeah, I either got to talk fast or just be concise, more concise than usual.
Okay, I want you to start in whatever order you're going to start, and I'll throw the picture up. What is the? Let's go in order of we need to watch. Go.
Oh, what we need to watch?
Which is your favorite? Go from your favorite on.
Oh, okay, from my favorite. Oh God, that's hard to.
I know I put you on the spot.
I know you did, but let me think. My favorite. Oh God, that's a hard watch. My favorite is a movie called The Holdovers.
There we go. Okay.
Which I don't know. Maybe I don't know. They've been running preview trailers for this.
I've not heard of this movie at all.
Oh, okay. It's director Alexander Payne of Sideways and Election. Remember that movie with Reese Witherspoon? Election. He directed both of those, and he's back with a movie that is absolutely certain to nab an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture of the Year, and it's called The Holdovers, and it's about this cantankerous teacher at a New England Ivy League prep school. He's disliked equally by both the students and the teaching staff, but he's given this assignment by the headmaster of the school to watch over and supervise a bunch of students during the Christmas break who have nowhere to go for the holidays. So he's kind of stuck with them. They're kind of stuck with him. Paul Giamatti plays the teacher. Look for him to be nominated in Best Acting categories for his performance.
Oh, good. I love Paul Giamatti. I really do.
If you love Paul Giamatti, you're gonna root for him to win all the awards this year. But just cut to the chase. I unabashedly loved this movie. It's designed definitely. And this is where Nikki comes in here.
Oh,
it's designed to tug at the heartstrings.
Am I going to cry? Am I going to cry?
Yes, you will.
Oh,
I cry too, and I never admit that I cry in a movie. But you know what I liked about it too? There was an astringency to it that mitigated it from turning into a kind of emotional sap fest. Instead, because of the script and the direction and the performances, what we happily get is this really human, emotional, heartfelt movie that's full of sentiment, not sentimentality, the kind that, can transform Scrooges into human beings. So this is a bring your Kleenex with you movie.
Yay.
It's one of the best of the year, and I defy anybody who comes out of this movie not being moved by what they saw.
Well, it's so sad that no one has a family to go home to for Christmas, so they have to develop their own little family at school, right?
Yeah, and you kind of think, and it kind of goes in unexpected places too, which is another reason I liked it so much. It surprised me. It kind of reminded me of one of those really quality personal movies that they made in the 70s that were popular in the 70s. Only it just seemed it's contemporary. It's because it takes place in the now. So it's so good.
Okay,
It's
good.
so
All right,
good.
I'm putting holdovers on there. And that is being released. Is it in theaters now or is it?
Yeah, it's in theaters today. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. Okay, next, I'll just choose for you. How about that?
Okay.
Because I have been seeing ads for this, which is What Happens Later. I haven't seen Meg Ryan in anything in a while, I feel like.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I mentioned this before on your show, but I'm always reminded that because I'm speaking to you two ladies, but I would say about 50% of the movies I reviewed this year or wrote about this year or talked about this year were directed by women. And there are four of the movies on the list today, as a matter of fact, are directed by women. This one too. This is why I bring it up. What Happens Later? Meg Ryan. It's oh God. Okay, she directed this. She stars.
Oh, she directed it. Okay.
She directed it. She also was one of the writers. There were 3 credited. She was one of the writers. I've always liked Meg Ryan a lot, and she stars in this opposite David Duchovny. They play these 2 people who, when they were young, were in a relationship. They were lovers. They broke up and parted many years ago, but years later happened to meet up at an airport while their planes were being detained due to a snowstorm. So through their interactions and exchanges and remembrances at seeing each other after so long an absence, we see and we learn how and why they got together, how they fell in love and what pulled them apart and why they broke up. So that's the premise. It's a 2-hander. It's just Meg Ryan and David Duchovny talking in this airport. Nobody else is in this movie. So it's kind of like a play. I think it would have worked better as a play on stage due to the
lack of other people.
Well, lack of other people. And you generally like these kinds of movies, but there's a magic realism component that they keep injecting, which is not even worth going into now, but which I will say totally undermined the movie's conceit. Anyway, suffice it to say, I was in the corner of this movie for the first 30 minutes. I thought the concept was interesting. There was some good chemistry between the 2 stars. Like I say, I've always liked Meg Ryan, but soon afterwards, the whole enterprise just sinks like a lead balloon. It then devolves into this unfocused, stylistically confused narrative that really doesn't tell anybody who's ever been in a romantic relationship for any length of time anything that they don't already know.
Oh, boo.
And when these 2, and here this is where I lost my mind. It's not really a spoiler. I'm just going to say this. When these 2 characters' respective planes take off into the sky at the end, and the smoke from their respective planes forms a heart in the sky, that's when that's when I almost screamed at the screen, but I had too much respect for the were there.
Barf City.
Yeah, exactly. That's cheesy.
Really cheesy. And it's just not good. Part of the problem is the direction. Sorry, Meg, but it's mostly a bad script. And this is one of those movies which I, for good or ill, I apply this litmus test thing I do, which is to say, if I'm not getting a movie, or I'm thinking that the problem of the movie is with me and not the movie, and if the movie has movie stars in it, I imagine the exact same movie that I'm watching with unknown and lesser actors. And if, when I do that, I want to take cover, I know the movie is bad. And if this movie had lesser actors in it, it would be dismissed as a total misfire.
Wow. Okay.
What a bummer that's her comeback,
Yeah. You know what else too? I shouldn't say this, but it's kind of obvious. I don't know who's doing work on her, but they're not doing a very good job. No, she really
she doesn't. It doesn't look good.
No, I think she looks like she just came out of a car wreck. Seriously, and that's terrible to say.
Oh, awful!
She just does
I
not
love
look
Meg
good.
Ryan, though.
So do
I mean, I haven't seen her in anything lately, but
yeah, she hasn't done much lately.
No, women feel they can't age.
Exactly.
That she has to be the Meg Ryan of youth.
Yeah,
no,
but she's not. She
no.
doesn't have to be that. She can be the Meg Ryan who's what, 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I think she's in her 50s. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I know it's terrible the pressure they put on women to do that, but Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, Meryl Streep, they never touched their faces.
Oh, look at that. All right. Well, this woman did. Priscilla Presley.
This is the second movie this week directed by a woman, Sofia Coppola, daughter of Francis Ford Coppola. And this is another Elvis-inspired flick, Priscilla is. It's also written by Miss Coppola and based on the 1985 memoir by Priscilla Presley. I think it was called Elvis and Me. And anyway, she also serves as executive producer on this movie. So, she was in the bag for how they did this film. And this is Elvis from the perspective of Priscilla, and I'm going to say child bride, because this is a well-made movie, but it's not a deep movie. It's also an unsavory movie because it depicts how much of an a-hole Elvis was to Priscilla. I doubt slavish devotees of Elvis Presley are going to much like this picture. Which I suppose is neither here nor there. But Priscilla is basically about how Elvis, in my opinion, exploited this young girl. He became fixated on her when she was in the 9th grade. Anybody listening ever read Lolita?
Exactly. It always seemed weird to me, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're just okay with this.
Well, watching this movie, you get how weird it is. And in my opinion, he exploited her. He ignored her. He fetishized her. He got her to take uppers, downers, even LSD. He never took her with him on his film shoots. He put her through all these long separations when she wasn't even 18 yet. He gaslit her. And in short, in my opinion, abused her. And this is basically a creepy story about the darker side of Elvis, whose view of women was that they should be kept in service or in servitude of their husbands and forget about what the women need.
Right.
I should also mention here that I'm not really a fan of Sofia Coppola's movies. I find them just lacking in depth and reflective of a kind of a privilege that makes me wonder what actual life experience has gone into them.
Oh, wow.
She seems to make movies that many critics go gaga over, but I think she just makes movies for her friends. I mean, not necessarily for audiences. Anyway, all that's debatable. People will disagree with me, but yeah, this is an interesting movie up to a point. It may be her best. I don't know.
I was reading an article today about Lisa Marie Presley before she died.
Right.
Had written to Coppola saying, why did you write this script that's so vengeful? It makes my dad look so vengeful and so awful. What was the point of this? And I don't know if Sofia Coppola ever responded to it, but
if it's based on her mom's book, I mean, I would say that.
She said, don't make this movie. I guess that Lisa Marie Presley thought this movie went even further than that. And made her dad look like he had no redeeming qualities.
Pretty much. Priscilla was an executive producer. Priscilla Presley was the executive producer. So she must have, which meant that could mean she just put money up for it. But, didn't have the final cut. The other thing about it too, is you watch this, right? She's going through all this stuff and I'm going out of my mind going, God, what an effing a-hole this guy is. But then it ends with this romantic, what's that song that Dolly Parton made famous?
I Will Always Love You.
I Will Always Love You. Yeah.
Really, and it's like that song from Carousel. That what's the use of wondering if your man is good or bad, or if he beats you? He's your fella. You love him anyway. So it left me feeling even creepier than I felt while watching the damn thing.
Yeah, and I will say this. I mean, I feel like people do romanticize Elvis and Priscilla still to this day.
Yeah,
and
probably,
this will pop the balloon of people that are paying attention and want to be, want to face it as a truth, because he was 10 years older than her, 14. She was 14. He was 24, something like that. If that was my daughter, you would be a pervert and in jail. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you know, the way, but it's interesting. And I think this is all documented too. The way he got around that, I guess it's to his credit, but the way he got around that is, from what we know, he didn't really try anything with her. He always kept the parents informed.
So he groomed her, is what you're saying, Tim.
Well, that was what I was actually going to say. See, I took that as him grooming her. And then he put her through all these weird things when they were about to have sex. I mean, this is a weird.
I think I need to watch it now. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Because I'm not a huge Elvis freak anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah. The acting is all good, you know.
Okay, well.
I mean, and it looks good, but oh God.
Well,
to me, it's like, what's the point of this movie? What am I supposed to take away?
All right. Let's do Beyond Utopia.
Yeah, this is one of the best movies of this week, and it's a documentary. Okay, it's a documentary, but it should be seen by anybody who values human rights. Okay, it's actually like a couple of movies. It's the story of this pastor, this Christian pastor, Pastor Kim. He's a minister who's helped over 1,000 people escape from North Korea in the dictatorship of Kim Jong-un. It's the story about a family that includes an elderly grandmother and 2 young children and their parents fleeing North Korea to South Korea. And it's also a kind of history of the one-party totalitarian dictatorship of North Korea. And actually, the movie is so many things, it's hard to know where to focus. Forget that it's a documentary, which I know has pejorative connotations for some people. As a pure movie, it's a tense, geopolitical, nail-biting thriller. It's also a refugee drama. It's a portrait of the lengths people will go to gain their freedom. It's a story about one man's bravery and courage and commitment to humanity by rescuing amidst these insane odds, which we actually watch played out in real time. And I'm going to get to that in a second about the footage. And it's a mother-son love story. It's a political saga. It's an amazing movie that juggles all of these things, and it's a must-see movie for the footage that the filmmakers captured. The footage in this movie really does have to be seen to be believed, and on that score alone makes this movie, in my opinion, a documentary classic. I read somewhere, somebody wrote about the movie that its director, Madeline Gavin, actually follows people who shouldn't be on camera to places where they shouldn't be, like the jungles of Vietnam and Laos at night, for example, climbing mountains, crossing the Mekong River, or in the living room of a North Korean defector. Anyway, this is the kind of documentary that wins Oscars.
Wow.
Period.
Nice.
It's really, really, really
Beyond Utopia. That sounds interesting. Okay.
And it's in theaters. I wanted to give a shout out. It's playing, I think, exclusively for the first week at the Roxy Theater in San Francisco. So people want to see it. Great movie to see on the big screen. Oh my God.
Perfect.
The footage will
alone
will just blow your mind. What they captured in this movie.
All right. Let's try to squeeze in a few more. Let's do Radical.
Oh, this is another Kleenex movie. Nikki, yes. It's it's based on a true story. It's based on this 2013 Wired article by Bay Area journalist and film producer Joshua Davis. It was called, I have it here. The article is called "A Radical Way of Unleashing a Generation of Geniuses," which chronicled the true story of this teacher, Sergio Juarez Correa, a teacher in the northeastern Mexican border town of Matamoros, who employed this radical methodology, one actually born out of despair because he was at his wit's end and he was having a nervous breakdown. He had this approach to education and teaching his students the I guess the methodology can be summed up as a kind of, rather than forcing the kids to, these are all sixth graders, to memorize facts and formulas that they needed for these government mandated state tests, he let them determine for themselves what they wanted to learn by these unorthodox means. He would be jumping around the classroom like a maniac. He'd be saying things out loud, silly things to stimulate the kids and to get them out of themselves, because these were poor kids who were being dismissed as hopeless. Everybody said, yeah, after the sixth grade, you're just going to go to work, you're stupid and everything. Some of these kids turned out to be literal geniuses because of the method that this guy employed. And he also encouraged the kids to make mistakes, believing that it was through mistakes that we actually learn. So it's a fascinating story. It's an inspirational drama, one of those inspirational teacher movies where, the teachers are trying to break through to their students. It was a bit reminiscent of like movies like To Sir with Love and The Blackboard Jungle and Up the Down Dead Poets Society, those kind of movies. Right. But this one had a slightly different feel, maybe because it's a Spanish language movie. It's both in English and Spanish. I don't know. Okay. But maybe maybe because it's less Hollywood, but there was a truthfulness or something maybe more like having been lived here that distinguishes it, in my opinion, from those other teacher-student movies. Anyway, it does pack an emotional wallop. Resistance to the overwhelming emotional pull of the closing scenes is futile.
All right. Okay, we have, I think, time for one more.
We do. The last one.
Well, I think we had two more left, but let's do Kill Room because I love
Samuel
Uma
L.
Thurman. Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, Uma Thurman. First time together since
Kill Bill.
No. Come on, Tim. Quentin Tarantino, his first movie, Pulp Fiction. They were in Pulp Fiction together. Right. Okay. And again, one last but fourth movie directed by a woman, and this one stars Uma Thurman. Boy, I can't talk today. Anyway, this is a comedy satire where the art world meets the underworld, where culture and criminality converge. It stars Uma Thurman as an art gallery owner who's not doing very well financially, who joins forces. I'm gonna get this right when I explain this. Okay, she joins forces with a Bialy bakery owner, played by Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't even know what a Bialy was. It's like a bagel. Anyway, it's like a Jewish delicacy, whose enterprise, this bakery, is a front for a mob murder for hire business, and who proposes handing piles of cash to Uma Thurman, the art gallery owner, who in turn will cut him checks to purchase these atrociously ugly paintings created by the Bialy bakery owner's top hitman. Crazy, insane. So it's like money laundering and putting a respectable front to a criminal enterprise. It's a smart script. It nails the pretentiousness of the art world and people, the really wealthy people, the 1% who spend money on these paintings and artworks, and the movie seems to be saying that the art world in the end, the one with the biggest spotlight on it, it's really overrun with African dictators and arms dealers and Russian thugs and con artists, people who really have no quote unquote eye for art, right? They just have bags of money, which allows them to fake having taste. So it's a funny, smart movie with great energy, fantastic characters, some ouch observations about the intersection of art, commerce, and criminality. It's very spot on, very funny. I highly recommend it.
Nice. All right. Well, there's plenty to watch. I definitely think Holdovers is going to be my first one. Yeah. And that's the Paul Giamatti one. I think that's the one I definitely want to watch.
If I had to predict, I'd say you both will like it. And it's a nice family movie too, without playing down to kids at all. But I think young people will really dig this movie too. Yeah.
Is Kill Room kind of a violent thing?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not for kids, Ken. It's not for kids.
I would say no, but it's a good movie for adults, and it's funny. I mean, it's funny in the way you like. And the violence is like Tarantino-esque in the sense that it gets kind of cartoony. So I don't like violent movies either.
Right.
And I usually turn away. I don't think I turned away once because the violence in this was so cartoony and so outrageous. Okay. But the movie is so funny. It's just so funny.
Oh, so, good. Kill Room. I will put all of the movies in the show notes right after the end of the show so you guys can see it. Tim Sika, have a fabulous weekend. I always appreciate you coming on. We'll see you next week.
I always love coming on. Thank you, Nikki. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So that's a lot of different movies. Something for everyone, I would have to say. Mm-hmm. All right, that's the show. I'll be back on Monday. I do want to let you know that on Monday, Alexandria Ravenel, who's an assistant professor of sociology at the University of Carolina at Chapel Hill, she'll be on with us talking about side hustle safety nets. Is the government doing enough in this new era of work? So she's going to be joining us on Monday, as well as all the latest headlines from over the weekend. All of you, thank you so much. I want to say thank you really quickly. Harry for the $5 donation, Doug for the $5 super sticker, Beth for the $20 donation to the super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Sign up to be a monthly Patreon subscriber. We depend on you to keep this show going. Until Monday, stay here for Mark Thompson and the After Party Live. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.